The dirt road to Turner Ranch feels different today. I grip the steering wheel tighter than necessary as my tires kick up familiar dust clouds behind me. 6 years of driving this route every weekend, and I could navigate it blindfolded. Past the crooked mailbox with the faded Turner name. Around the bend, where wild sage grows thick along the fence line. Up the gentle slope where you first see the barn's red roof against the Idaho sky. But when I crest that final rise, my foot slams the brake. A massive industrial dumpster blocks the driveway. Green metal sides tower above my sedan, wide enough to swallow a small truck. The engine idles as I stare, confusion mixing with something sharper in my gut. I didn't order this. Movement catches my eye beyond the container. Ron. My uncle stands near the porch in his clean khakis and a polo shirt I've never seen him wear for ranch work, gesturing at 3 men in work gloves. They're carrying things from the house. Armloads of things. Moving with the efficient brutality of people paid by the hour. I kill the engine and my door swings open before I've formed a plan. Ron! My voice cracks across the yard. He turns, sees me, and his face does something I can't quite read. Not guilt. Maybe surprise that I showed up early. One of the workers heaves a cardboard box over the dumpster's edge and I hear the crash of breaking glass inside. My boots hit gravel and I'm running. The dumpster's rim reaches my shoulder. I have to grip the cold metal and pull myself up on my toes to see inside, and when I do, the breath leaves my lungs. Grandma Maggie's gardening journals. The leather ones she filled with her careful handwriting every spring for 40 years. They're scattered in the bottom like trash, spines broken, pages spread open in the mud that's pooled from yesterday's rain. A photo album lies face down, its plastic sleeves torn. I see the corner of a photograph, Maggie as a young woman standing in front of this same barn, but the image is pressed into dirt. The quilt. Oh God, the quilt. Cream and blue patchwork, the one Maggie and I spent 3 winters sewing together at her kitchen table. My stitches clumsy next to her perfect ones. She'd laughed and said the imperfect squares made it more honest. Now it's crumpled at the bottom like a rag someone used to wipe engine oil. Stop! The word rips out of me. Stop right now. The workers pause mid-stride, looking to Ron for direction. He's walking toward me, unhurried, and there's something in his expression that makes my hands curl into fists. Chloe. He says my name like a teacher addressing a child who's interrupted class. This is estate business. Estate business? I can't keep the shake out of my voice. You're throwing away her journals, her photos. Clutter. Ron stops a few feet away, close enough that I have to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. He's always been tall, always used it. The property has liability issues. Insurance won't cover the place in this condition. One of the workers emerges from the house with another box. Ron plucks something from the top before the man can toss it. A leather journal, smaller than the gardening ones. Maggie's recipe book, the one with her mother's handwriting in the margins. Ron holds it up between us. Makes sure I'm watching. Then he tosses it into the dumpster. The journal hits with a soft thud that I feel in my chest. You can't. My throat is closing. You have no right. I'm the executor, Chloe. The will was clear. He crosses his arms. And before you go getting emotional, you should know the locks have been changed. New deadbolts on all the doors. Professional grade. The property needs to be secured during the transition period. My eyes snap to the front door. Shiny brass hardware gleams where the old iron lock used to be. The lock Maggie gave me a key to 6 years ago, when she asked me to help maintain the place. When she was too weak to do it herself. Movement on the porch draws my attention. Elaine. Ron's wife stands with her arms crossed, her stance a mirror to his. She doesn't speak, just watches. The silent enforcer. The witness to my humiliation. Insurance requirements, Ron continues, his voice taking on that false authority he uses when he doesn't actually know what he's talking about. Professional assessment of the property value. You wouldn't understand the complexity involved. My body wants to move, wants to shove past him, climb into that dumpster, rescue every piece of Maggie from the mud. My hands are shaking, fists so tight my nails cut crescents into my palms. But my mother's voice echoes in my skull. Family is everything, Chloe. Respect your elders. Be the bigger person. Keep the peace. I've heard it my whole life. Internalized it until it became the steel bars of my own cage. So I stand there, shaking, unable to move forward or speak the words burning in my throat. Ron mistakes my paralysis for surrender. He turns back toward the house, dismissing me with the movement. "Don't make this hard on the family, Chloe," he calls over his shoulder. Elaine finally speaks from the porch, her voice carrying across the yard. "We're doing what's necessary." What's necessary? As if necessity justifies erasing someone. I should leave. Drive away before I do something I'll regret. But my feet won't move. Instead, I reach into the dumpster, stretching until my ribs press against the metal edge. My fingers close around one of the journals, pulling it free. The leather cover is damp, smeared with mud, but when I open it, Maggie's handwriting is still visible. May 1998. Planted the tomatoes early this year. Chloe helped dig the rows. Poe. I was 12 that summer. Ron watches from the porch as I walk back to my car, the rescued journal clutched against my chest. He doesn't try to stop me. Why would he? He's already won. I slide behind the wheel and set the journal carefully on the passenger seat. My hands are filthy with dumpster grime and my vision blurs at the edges, but I'm not crying. I'm not crying because underneath the shock and the hurt, something else is crystallizing, something cold and clear. Ron isn't just neglectful. He isn't just incompetent or overwhelmed by executor duties. He's erasing Maggie, deliberately, throwing her away like garbage. The realization settles into my bones as I start the engine. And as I drive away, watching the ranch disappear in my rearview mirror, I make a decision that will change everything. I'm done being the good niece. 3 days pass before I return. I park a quarter-mile down the road this time, driving specifically into the dense, overgrown brush behind an abandoned equipment shed. From the main road, my sedan is completely invisible. The morning air bites cold against my face as I cut through the sagebrush on foot, avoiding the main driveway entirely. The new deadbolts gleam on the front door when I circle around the house. Brass hardware that probably cost more than the monthly utility bills I paid for 6 years. Ron's truck isn't in the yard. Neither is Elaine's SUV. The house looks empty, but I move carefully anyway, pressing close to the weathered siding. The cellar door hides exactly where I remember it. 20 years of ivy growth have nearly swallowed the entrance. The wooden frame is half rotted, the kind of detail Ron would never bother inspecting. Too dirty, too beneath his attention. I push aside the thick vines, their leaves rustling loud in the silence, and there it is. The old iron lock Maggie never replaced. My spare key slides in like it was waiting. The lock clicks. The sound makes my heart jump even though I'm alone. I ease the door open, wincing at the creak of hinges that haven't moved in months. Darkness yawns below. I pull out my phone, thumbing on the flashlight, and descend stone steps slick with moisture. The cellar smells like earth and old wood, and something else. Abandonment. The beam from my phone cuts through the dark, catching cobwebs and dust motes. I cross the dirt floor to the interior stairs, each step deliberate, listening for any sound above. When I emerge into the kitchen, I stop breathing. Everything is wrong. The table where Maggie and I sewed that quilt sits shoved against the far wall, buried under cardboard boxes. The grandfather clock that stood in the hallway for 40 years is gone. Just a clean rectangle on the wallpaper where it used to be. The walls themselves look bare, stripped. Photos removed, their outlines visible in the faded paint. I move through the house like a ghost, cataloging the destruction. The living room furniture has been rearranged into careless clusters. Maggie's reading chair faces the wrong direction, away from the window where she always sat to catch afternoon light. The bookshelf holds nothing but a few water-damaged paperbacks, Ron probably deemed worthless. The study door is open. Papers cover every surface inside. I step over a collapsed stack of file folders and approach the desk. Ron's work. His handwriting scrawls across sticky notes plastered to the lamp, the wall, the desk calendar, reminders about appraisals and inspections and closing dates, the language of liquidation. My hands are steadier than they should be as I start searching. The top drawer yields nothing but pens and rubber bands. The second drawer sticks halfway, jammed with junk mail and unopened envelopes. I pull harder and it gives, contents spilling across the floor in a cascade of paper. That's when I see it. The survey map. It's wedged between 2 catalogs, one corner visible. I yank it free and spread it across the desk, smoothing the creases with trembling fingers. Turner Commercial Plaza, reads the header in bold print. A developer's draft. Parking lots drawn where the pasture should be. Retail spaces plotted across the land Maggie spent her life protecting. The date stamp in the corner makes my stomach drop. 8 months before Maggie died. Ron planned this while she was still alive. My breath comes short as I scan the margins. His handwriting appears there too, notes scribbled in blue ink. Clear by Q2 next to the barn location. Max liquidity underlined twice near the property value estimate. I sink into the desk chair, the map clutched in my fists. He wasn't reacting to estate pressure. He wasn't scrambling to handle unexpected executor duties. He'd already decided to sell. Already found a developer. Already mapped out the destruction of everything Maggie built. My hands move on autopilot, digging through the remaining papers. There has to be more. There has to be proof of why. The loan application hides beneath a stack of grocery circulars. Crumpled. Nearly thrown away. I flattened it against the desk and read the bank's stamp at the top. Application rejected in red letters. The date matches the survey map, give or take a week. The applicant line shows Ron's signature. And there, listed under proposed collateral, typed in neat bureaucratic font, Turner Ranch, 96 acres. He tried to use the ranch for his own loan. The bank refused because he didn't own it, couldn't use what wasn't his, so he waited. Waited for Maggie to die. Waited to pretend the estate needed liquidation when really, he just needed to cover his own debts. I photograph everything. Map, loan rejection, the handwritten notes. My phone's camera clicks rapid fire in the silent study, each image backing up automatically to the cloud. Evidence, proof, ammunition. The sound of tires on gravel freezes me mid-motion. I shove the documents back into approximate disorder and move fast toward the cellar stairs. Down into the dark, across the dirt floor, up through the exterior entrance. The ivy falls back into place as I ease the door shut, my pulse hammering in my ears. By the time Ron's truck door slams, I'm already halfway through the sagebrush, invisible. 2 days later, I sit in William Hartley's office. The lawyer's space feels like stepping backward in time. Oak paneling, leather chairs worn soft from decades of use, law books lining the walls. Hartley himself looks exactly like Maggie described him years ago. 70, sharp-eyed, with the patient demeanor of someone who's seen every trick twice. I spread the photographs across his desk without a preamble. He studies them in silence, reading glasses perched on his nose. When he looks up, something in his expression has shifted. Hardened. "The deed is valid," he says. "Inter vivos transfer. Maggie signed the title over to you in February 2022. The ranch was never part of the estate." The words land like absolution. "Then we can stop him," I say. "Right now, before he sells." Hartley removes his glasses, folding them with deliberate care. "We could, but Ron would fight it, use estate funds to drag you through court for years, expensive years." "So what do I do?" "Let him commit." Hartley's voice drops lower. "Let him sign contracts with the developer. Let him prove bad faith in writing. Then you produce the deed. Not before, after." I lean back in the chair, processing. "You want me to let him think he's winning?" "I want you to let him prove he's guilty." Hartley taps the photo of the loan rejection. "This isn't negligence. This is fraud. But we need him to demonstrate intent. Give him rope. Let him hang himself." The drive home feels different. The weight that's been pressing on my chest since the dumpster has lifted, replaced by something colder, something focused. I'm not defending anymore. I'm hunting. That evening, I create a new folder on my laptop. Blue. I label it Turner Ranch Documentation and begin uploading files. The deed Maggie gave me years ago. The photos from Hartley's office. I add my own photographs next. The rotting eaves, Ron ignored. The horses he's neglected. The crumbling barn he won't repair. Every email he's sent. Every dismissive text message. Timestamps on everything. The cloud backup confirms, and I close the laptop with a quiet click. 3 days later, Sam Miller finds me photographing the damaged fence line near the north pasture. I don't hear him approach until his shadow falls across my viewfinder. "Documenting his negligence?" he asks. I lower the camera. Sam stands there in his work jacket, weathered hands hanging loose at his sides. He's been the ranch gardener and handyman for 20 years. Saw everything I did. Everything Ron didn't do. "Yeah," I say simply. Sam nods once. Doesn't ask why. Doesn't offer advice. Just looks at me with those kind eyes and says, "Maggie knew what she was doing when she signed that deed." The words settle into my bones like truth. I'm not alone in knowing what really happened here. That night, the email arrives. Subject line reads, "Important family update." The message appears in my inbox at 8:47 p.m., sent to the entire family distribution list. Ron's name in the sender field makes my jaw clench before I even open it. Great news coming at the reunion. Big decisions ahead for all of us. Mark your calendars, more details to follow. I read it twice, then a third time. The cursor blinks in the reply field. My fingers hover over the keys. A dozen responses form in my mind. Questions, accusations, demands. I close the laptop without typing a word. My silence isn't a weakness anymore. It's a strategy. Every day Ron thinks I've accepted defeat is another day he digs himself deeper. Another day he commits to a sale he has no legal right to make. Another day he proves William Hartley exactly right. I smile in the empty apartment. Let him think he's won. Let him send his triumphant emails and plan his big announcement. When the trap finally springs, he won't even see it coming. Months pass in a blur of strategy and silence. Summer burns out, autumn leaves fall, and then the true Idaho winter descends. The temperature drops 15 degrees in 3 days. I notice it first at the ranch on a Thursday evening in late January, driving out after work with my headlamp and toolkit in the back seat. The cellar door resists when I push it open, the metal hinges contracting in the cold. Inside, my breath comes out in visible puffs under the bare bulb. January in Idaho means winter isn't a possibility anymore. It's a brutal reality. The barn is worse. I push through the side door and the cold hits me like a wall, not the mild chill from last month. This is different. Aggressive. The kind of cold that settles into your joints and refuses to leave. I flip the light switch and the overhead fluorescents flicker on, illuminating breath clouds from the stalls. The horses. Maggie's 2 remaining mares, Stella and Daisy, stand in their stalls with their heads low. Their breath comes out in thick white plumes. When Stella shifts her weight, I can see the goosebumps rippling across her flank under her winter coat that hasn't fully grown in yet. I check the heating oil gauge mounted near the door. Empty. The needle sits firmly on 0. My phone buzzes in my pocket. An email from Ron to the family group thread, sent 20 minutes ago while I was driving. Update. Implementing cost-cutting measures before closing. Heating oil delivery canceled for barn. Developer assessment next month. R. I read it 3 times. The developer assessment. The one that will show the ranch in perfect condition, ready for demolition and conversion to Turner Commercial Plaza. The heating oil expense would show up as overhead, making the property look less profitable. So Ron cut it, made the numbers prettier for his buyer, and the horses freeze. My hands are shaking, but not from the cold. I can't intervene legally. Not yet. Hartley was clear about that. Revealing the deed now means years of court battles while Ron uses estate funds to fight me. The trap only works if Ron commits fully to the sale, proving his bad faith beyond any doubt. But I can't let the animals suffer while I wait for strategy to align. I pull up the Tractor Supply website on my phone. Portable space heaters, commercial grade, $200 each. I need at least 4 to make a dent in this space. Thermal blankets for the horses. Another $100. Extra hay bales because they'll need more calories to stay warm. Another $200 for delivery tonight. $800 total. I work through the checkout process, entering my debit card information with numb fingers. The confirmation email arrives with a delivery window. Tonight between 8 and 10. That gives me 2 hours. I spend it hauling every spare blanket I can find in the house storage closets, draping them over the stall doors to block drafts. I stuff old towels and rags into the gaps where the barn siding has warped with age. Stella watches me work, her dark eyes following my movements. When I pass her stall, she presses her nose against my shoulder. Warm breath against my frozen cheek. I know, I whisper. I'm here. The delivery truck arrives at 9:15. The driver helps me unload the heaters and hay bales, eyeing the dark property with curiosity but asking no questions. Cash transaction, no receipt with Ron's name on it. He drives away and I'm alone with 4 industrial heaters and a plan that violates every strategic instinct Hartley tried to teach me. I plug in the first heater near Stella's stall. The orange glow fills the corner of the barn, and within minutes I can feel the difference. Not warm yet, but the aggressive edge of cold retreats slightly. I position the other 3 heaters strategically, creating pockets of warmth that overlap near the stall areas. The thermal blankets go over both horses, secured with the chest straps designed for this purpose. I'm adjusting Daisy's blanket when I hear boots on gravel outside. My hand freezes on the strap. The barn door is already open from the delivery, and I left the cellar entrance unlocked behind me. Stupid. I was so focused on the horses. I forgot basic security. The footsteps stop at the barn entrance. Thought I saw lights. Sam Miller's voice. Not Ron, not Elaine. I turn around slowly, still crouched beside Daisy's stall. Sam stands in the doorway, his weathered face shadowed by the heater glow behind me. He's wearing a heavy canvas jacket and work gloves, dressed for cold night labor. His eyes move from me to the heaters to the thermal blankets. He doesn't ask what I'm doing here. Doesn't question my right to be on property Ron claims to control. Instead, he walks to the far wall where the insulation has torn away from the studs, leaving gaps that let in wind. He examines it for a long moment, running his gloved hand along the damaged section. This won't hold heat, he says. Got some foam board in my truck. Be right back. He's gone before I can respond. When he returns, he's carrying rigid foam insulation panels and a cordless drill. We work in silence for the next 2 hours. Sam cuts and fits the panels while I hold them in place. He drills them into the studs with practiced efficiency, sealing the gaps that have leaked warmth for probably 5 winters. Every few panels, he pauses to check his work, adjusting angles, adding extra screws where the barn wall curves slightly. The only sounds are the drill, the soft shuffle of horses in their stalls, and our breathing. Around 11, Sam produces a thermos from his jacket. He pours coffee into the cap and hands it to me without asking if I want any. The liquid is still hot enough to burn my tongue, bitter and perfect. We stand side by side near one of the heaters, warming our hands on the thermos. Snow begins to fall outside. Small flakes at first, then larger ones that catch the light from the barn windows. Sam watches them accumulate on the gravel, his expression unreadable. Then he speaks. Maggie told me what she did. My hand tightens on the thermos cap. The deed. He continues. February 2022. She had me witness the notary appointment. Said you were the only one who loved the land, not the money. The validation hits me harder than I expected. My throat closes and I have to look away, focusing on the falling snow until I can trust my voice. Ron doesn't know. I manage. Ron's an idiot. Sam takes the thermos cap back, pours himself coffee. I wanted to tell you sooner, Chloe, but Maggie made me swear on her Bible. Said you had to find your own fight first. Said if I handed it to you, it wouldn't mean as much. He pauses, watching the snow fall. Maggie knew that too. Why she chose you. We finish the coffee in silence. When Sam finally leaves around midnight, he pauses at the barn door. You need anything else? I'm 10 minutes down the road. He pulls a card from his pocket, sets it on the workbench. His cell number, written in permanent marker, day or night. The door closes behind him, and I'm alone with the horses and the heaters and the truth that's been building since the dumpster. Maggie saw me, chose me, trusted me. I'm not crazy. I'm not selfish. I'm not the problem Ron has spent months telling the family I am. My phone buzzes. Another text from Ron, sent to just me this time. Why so quiet, Chloe? Finally accepting reality? I read it twice. Then I set the phone face down on the workbench without responding. For 6 years I answered every question, explained every decision, justified every hour I spent here. Seeking approval that never came, permission I never needed. My silence used to mean submission. Now it means something else entirely. I check the heaters one more time before I leave, adjusting the settings to maintain steady warmth through the night. The horses are already drowsy in their thermal blankets, the barn temperature hovering at a survivable 50 degrees. Over the next week, Ron's texts multiply. Developer coming next month. Time to be realistic. Family unity requires compromise, Chloe. Your silence is noted. I save every message, screenshot them with timestamps, upload them to the cloud drive where I keep the survey map and the loan application. Each text is more aggressive than the last, Ron's frustration bleeding through the professionally worded threats. The blue folder grows thicker. On Tuesday, a certified mail notice appears in my apartment mailbox. I sign for the package on Wednesday morning before work. The envelope is heavy, cream-colored, and official-looking. I open it in my car before starting the engine. Turner family reunion. Mandatory attendance. The date is mid-February. Location: Turner Ranch. Agenda: final decisions regarding estate liquidation. Ron's personal note is paper-clipped to the formal invitation, his handwriting aggressive and cramped. Time to make this official, Chloe. The developer needs an answer. My hands don't shake when I slide the invitation into the blue folder, filing it behind the deed and the survey map and the months of documented evidence. The clock has run out. The trap is ready. On the reunion day, the ranch house hasn't held this many people since Grandma Maggie's funeral. 35 relatives fill the rooms, their voices bouncing off walls that used to absorb only silence and my solitary footsteps. I stand near the kitchen doorway, watching cousins I haven't seen in years pile plates with catered food that must have cost a fortune. Estate funds, probably. Ron's idea of magnanimity. White tablecloths cover every surface, crisp and formal. Nothing about this feels like the ranch I know. Ron moves through the crowd in a suit. Actual wool, tailored. The kind he'd mock other men for wearing to anything less than a wedding. He's playing a role today, shaking hands, touching shoulders. The benevolent patriarch distributing wisdom and difficult decisions. Elaine works the perimeter. I track her movement from aunt to cousin to uncle, her hand landing on forearms, her voice low and sympathetic. Planting seeds. Watering the narrative she and Ron have cultivated for months. Such a stubborn girl. The whisper comes from somewhere behind me. Doesn't understand the financial reality. Maggie would want what's best for everyone, not just Chloe's sentimental notions. I press my spine against the doorframe. The canvas bag hangs from my shoulder, its weight familiar. The blue folder inside feels heavier than paper should. Ron claps his hands twice, sharp cracks that silence the room. Family, if we could all gather in the dining area. His voice carries the false warmth of a car salesman. I have a presentation that will clarify our situation. People shuffle, holding plates and wine glasses. Ron has set up his laptop on the sideboard, cable snaking to the flat-screen TV mounted above the fireplace. The screen glows blue, waiting. I take a seat at the far end of the main table, the chair Maggie used to occupy. No one protests. The first slide appears. Turner Estate financial reality in bold letters over a photo of the barn I know Ron hasn't entered in years. As executor, I've conducted a comprehensive assessment. Ron advances to the next slide. Numbers fill the screen. Property taxes, maintenance costs, projected repairs. Every figure inflated beyond recognition. The debt burden is unsustainable. A cousin to my left leans forward, studying the numbers. Aunt Martha covers her mouth. Next slide. Photos of the ranch, each carefully selected. The rotting eave I reported to Ron months ago, never fixed. The fence section that collapsed last winter when he refused to budget for posts. The peeling paint on the barn's north side. Every image screams neglect, and none show the work I've done. The repaired stalls, the maintained pastures, the garden I've kept alive. The property has fallen into disrepair. Ron's tone suggests tragedy, rather than his own intentional abandonment. Continuing to maintain it would consume resources the family can't afford. My fingers curl around the bag strap. The final slides show an architectural rendering. Glass and steel where the barn stands. Paved parking where Maggie's garden grows. Commercial plaza rendered in clean fonts and modern angles. The solution is straightforward. Ron pauses for effect. A reputable developer has offered $1,650,000 for the property. Murmurs ripple through the room. Someone whistles low. This allows us to preserve the family legacy by converting it to liquid assets. Everyone benefits. The Turner name endures in a new form. The screen goes dark. Ron closes his laptop with a decisive click. I watch him, my mind racing. He's bluffing about the finalized deal. No developer cuts a check without a clear title search. Unless this consensus document isn't just a formality, it's a power of attorney. He needs us to sign away our rights so he can leverage the estate to get the deposit he desperately needs to cover his own debts. Which brings me to the final matter. He produces a clipboard from behind the sideboard. Paper attached, official looking. A heavy silver pen rests on top, the kind that costs more than it should. I've prepared a family consensus document. Simple formality. Everyone here has already reviewed and agreed. He walks the length of the table. His steps are measured, confident. The clipboard lands directly in front of me with a soft thud. All 34 other people turn their heads. The document is dense with legal language. I'd need an hour to parse properly. Signatures fill the bottom 2/3. Names I recognize: Uncle Jim, Aunt Martha, cousins I played with as a child. All in agreement. One line remains blank. Mine. We just need your blessing, Chloe. Ron's voice is gentle now, almost paternal. Then we can move forward as a united family. Elaine appears on my shoulder. Her hand settles there, warm and heavy. Do the right thing, honey. Pressure builds in the silence. 34 pairs of eyes, some sympathetic, some impatient, some already counting their share of $1,650,000. Ron has turned away from me, angling toward the corner where a man in an expensive suit stands apart from the family, the developer's representative. Ron gives him a subtle nod, the gesture of someone already celebrating. I reach for the pen. My hand shakes as I lift it. The tremor is visible, humiliating. I look small, holding this pen. Isolated at the end of this long table, surrounded by family who have already decided. The room exhales. Shoulders relax. Elaine's grip loosens slightly. I hold the pen over the signature line. The blank space where my name should go. My hand hovers there, shaking, and I close my eyes. Breathe. Maggie's face surfaces in the darkness. Her hands covered in garden soil, laughing as I struggled with crooked fence posts. Her voice, when she handed me the key 6 years ago. You're the only one who sees it, Chloe. The only one who understands what this place means. February 2022. The lawyer's office. Her signature next to mine on different paper. I open my eyes. The pen cap clicks closed between my fingers. The sound cuts through the silence like a blade. I set the pen down. Still capped. Untouched to paper. Before I sign, Ron. My voice is quiet, but it carries. The academic advisor voice I use when a student has falsified their transcripts. Professional. Measured. I have one procedural question. Ron's expression flickers. The confident smirk wavers at the edges. Procedural? He forces a laugh. Chloe, this isn't complicated. Did you personally pull the deed from the county recorder's office? The room's energy shifts, confusion replacing expectation. People glance at each other, uncertain what this means. Ron waves a dismissive hand. Why would I need to check what I already control? The will was explicit. I'm the executor. This is my authority. Right. I reach down to the bag at my feet. My hands are steady now. Your authority. The blue folder slides out onto the white tablecloth. Every eye in the room locks onto it. I meet Ron's gaze directly for the first time all day. Hold it. Don't blink. His smirk has vanished completely. I open the blue folder. The sound of the clasp releasing feels enormous in my ears. Inside, the documents are arranged exactly as William Hartley and I prepared them. Each page is protected in a clear sleeve. Each piece of evidence in perfect sequence. I slide the first document across the polished wood table. Then you don't know Grandma Maggie transferred the title of this land to me. 2 years ago. February 2022. The paper glides to a stop in front of Ron. Official county letterhead across the top. Margaret Ellen Turner's signature in her careful cursive. My signature beside hers, younger and less steady. The county recorder's stamp in blue ink, raised and textured where the seal pressed into the paper. Inter vivos transfer, property deed, recorded and legal. Ron's hand shoots out and snatches the document. His eyes scan the page. Once, twice, his face shifting through expressions too quickly to track. This is a forgery. His voice is loud, but there's something underneath it now. Something that wasn't there before. I pull the second document from the folder. Here's the notary log. 3 witness signatures. The notary's stamp matches the one on the deed. Ron's face flushes red. She was senile. She didn't know what she was signing. Around the table, relatives lean forward. Cousin Dave reaches for the deed and Ron jerks it away from him. Doctor. Keller's medical capacity affidavit. I place the third document on the table. Dated the same day as the deed, the 14th of February 2022. It states Grandma Maggie was of sound mind and fully understood the legal implications of the property transfer. Elaine's hand drops from my shoulder. Ron stands up, the chair scraping loud against the floor. She didn't understand the financial necessity, the taxes, the maintenance costs. She was living in the past, not facing reality. I've been waiting for this. For the moment when he'd pivot from legal arguments to emotional ones. When he'd try to make this about Maggie's supposed ignorance instead of his own scheming. I pull out the draft survey map. The paper unfolds across the table, and I smooth it flat with both hands. Turner Commercial Plaza, the header reads. The date in the corner is 8 months before Maggie died. Ron's handwriting fills the margins. Clear by Q2. Max liquidity. The silence in the room changes texture, becomes something thicker. And you didn't do this for the family. My voice is steady. I've practiced this moment in my head 100 times, but now that it's happening, the words come easily, naturally. You did it, because the bank rejected your personal loan. The final document, the crumpled loan application I found buried in his messy study, smoothed out and photocopied. Ron's signature at the bottom. Turner Ranch, 96 acres, listed as collateral. The red denied stamp across the top. I watch understanding spread through the room like spilled water. Aunt Martha's hand rises to cover her mouth. Uncle Jim pushes his chair back, the legs squealing. Ron tried to use the ranch as collateral. The bank rejected him because he didn't hold the title. He couldn't leverage property that wasn't his. You weren't saving the estate. I keep my eyes on Ron's face. You were trying to get us to sign a power of attorney so you could secure a deposit. Selling property you didn't own to cover your tracks. The developer representative stands. He doesn't say anything at first, just reaches down and picks up his briefcase. When he speaks, his voice is clipped. Professional. This deal is dead. Title isn't clear. He walks out. His footsteps echo down the hallway, and then the front door closes with a final, decisive click. Cousins reach for the documents, passing them hand to hand, reading the dates, the signatures, the evidence of Ron's planning while Maggie was still alive. Ronald. Aunt Martha's voice shakes. You lied to all of us. Uncle Jim is on his feet now. You said Chloe was being selfish. You said she abandoned Maggie. She did abandon her. Elaine's voice cracks across the room. This is a betrayal of family trust. I stand. Not quickly, not dramatically. I simply rise from my chair, and the room falls silent. The truth is spreading. I can see it in their faces. 6 years of weekend drives. 6 years of fence repairs and veterinary bills and sitting beside Maggie's bed, while Ron planned commercial plazas and loan applications. This is private property. The words feel strange in my mouth. Foreign. I've never said anything like this before, never drawn a line this sharp. You have 1 hour to vacate. No apology in my voice, no softness, no attempt to cushion the blow or make it easier for anyone, just the boundary, clear and immovable. Ron opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. The authority he wore like armor has cracked, and underneath there's just a man who gambled on a property he never owned. Elaine grabs her purse from the side table. Her face is crimson, lips pressed into a thin white line. She doesn't look at me as she moves toward the door. Relatives gather their things. Some avoid my eyes. Others nod slightly as they pass, something like respect or shame in their expressions. Movement in the doorway catches my attention. Sam Miller stands there, his weathered face creased in something that might be a smile. He heard everything. Of course he did. He's been waiting for this moment as long as I have. William Hartley appears behind him, briefcase in hand. I can help coordinate the exit if needed. Ron is the last to move. He stands by the table, the deed still in his hand. For a moment, I think he might try to take it, to destroy it, but he just lets it fall back onto the wood surface. When he walks past me, he doesn't speak. The man who threw Maggie's journals into the dumpster, who changed the locks, who tried to erase her. He has nothing left to say. The door closes behind him, and I am alone in my grandmother's house. My house now, the owner, not the trespasser, the steward, not the thief. I sink back into the chair and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The driveway looks different without the dumpster. I pull up to Turner Ranch on a Sunday afternoon in late August, 6 months after the reunion that changed everything. The same dirt road, the same bend in the fence line where sage grows wild, but the flowers are blooming now. Purple lupine and yellow arrowleaf crowd the gate posts where weeds used to choke the ground. The barn wears fresh red paint, The fences stand white and straight. The horses graze in the pasture with healthy coats that catch the sunlight, no longer shivering in their stalls. Sam Miller's truck sits near the renovated bunkhouse where he lives now, rent-free, caretaker and friend. The arrangement suits us both. I park and gather the pie William Hartley dropped off this morning, homemade cherry, still warm in its dish. He visits monthly these days, always bringing legal updates wrapped in conversation and baked goods. Today he's staying for dinner. Inside, the dining room table seats 8. 3 of my colleagues from the university are already here, laughing about something that happened at registration last week. They understand now why I was so distracted last year, why I kept checking my phone during meetings and disappeared on weekends. Sam sits at the head of the table with me, an honored guest in the home he helped save. He's telling a story about the garden's tomato harvest, his weathered hands gesturing as he describes the vines heavy with fruit. Maggie would have been proud, he says, and the words settle warm in my chest. William arrives as we're setting out plates. He places the pie on the counter and shakes hands with everyone, his sharp eyes taking in the renovated kitchen with approval. The oppressive silence that used to fill this house has been replaced by something lighter. Laughter, the clink of silverware, normal sounds that feel revolutionary. Over dinner, conversation drifts to the legal resolution. One of my colleagues asks about Ron, and I realize I haven't thought about him in weeks. The court appointed a neutral administrator for the remaining cash assets, William explains, helping himself to roasted potatoes. Once the fraud evidence surfaced, Ron was removed as executor entirely. Some relatives took his side, I add, passing the salad bowl. We haven't spoken since the reunion. My colleague Sarah winces. That must be hard. I consider this. 6 months ago, the thought would have crushed me. Family is everything. Keep the peace. Be the bigger person. I didn't lose family, I say now, and I mean it. I lost people who enabled theft. The weight I carried for so long is gone. These people around my table, they're built on honesty, not an obligation, not blind loyalty to blood ties that meant nothing when I needed help. After dinner, I walk the fence line alone as the sun drops toward the horizon, the same walk I took for 6 years when this place wasn't officially mine. When I fixed posts and paid utility bills and sat with dying Maggie while Ron stayed away. But everything feels different now. My boots follow the path I wore into the grass. I'm not the helper anymore, sneaking onto property that belonged to someone else. I'm the owner, the steward, the one Maggie chose. Her wisdom proved true in the end. I stop at the gate where Ron locked me out before, where I stood trembling with rage, unable to physically confront him because my conditioning wouldn't allow it. A new lock gleams in the evening light. My key, my choice. Inside the house, visible through the window, the journal I rescued from the dumpster sits in a glass case. Maggie's handwriting is preserved. Her memory is honored, not erased. The sunset paints the sky in shades of orange and purple, colors so vivid they seem unreal. 96 acres stretch before me, land I saved by loving it when no one else would, by showing up every weekend for 6 years, by choosing labor over entitlement. I pull the gate closed and turn the key. The lock clicks with satisfying finality, not keeping people out, keeping peace in. I stand there a moment longer, breathing the cooling air, watching shadows lengthen across the property. Somewhere in the pasture, a horse snorts. The barn door creaks on its hinges, small sounds that belong to me now. Grandma knew. She always knew. I pocket the key and walk back toward the house, where light spills warm from the windows and my friends are probably arguing over who does dishes. Real family. The kind you build yourself. The kind that stays.